Hi, in this video I want to give you an introduction to Neuro-Linguistic Programming, otherwise known as NLP. So let me start with a summary. NLP, it's a model of applied psychology. And whereas psychologists tend to look at your personal history and ask why questions about your problems, which only tends to reinforce the problem, with NLP, we gather a bit of information about your present state and your past, but then quickly move on to building what we call a well-formed outcome. That is helping you to set goals and to discover the best version of yourself. This process I call future selfing. So we start by getting an idea of what your future could look like by asking questions like, what do you want? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you feel? And then we contextualize your desired outcome by asking, when do you want it? Where do you want it? With whom do you want it? And once you have an idea of what you want, then we ask, why do you want the desired outcome? Why else do you want the outcome? And so on. And this gives us a hierarchy of values, which are your motivators, the reason why you take action. The next step is to get into the how, which is quite involved. Anyway, but I'm getting ahead by myself, so let's take a look at what NLP is, because if you want to discover the best version of yourself and create the future of your dreams, which you can do, then you need to understand what NLP is. You have to get an understanding of the higher frames of mind which oversee your thoughts and behaviours. So who founded NLP? Well, Richard Bandler, he's credited with discovering the NLP modelling process in the early 70s when he inadvertently modelled Fritz Perls. And according to John Grinder, who was his linguistics professor, Bandler and Frank Puslik were highly skilled in both modelling and Gestalt therapy by the time he started working with them in 1974. Now, John was originally co-opted to turn what Bandler and Puslik could already do into a coherent model they could teach to others. Now, credit also needs to be given to a host of other co-developers. There's a whole list of these guys and girls who played a part in its development as a field. Now, Bandler went on to develop design human engineering. Grinder developed the new code NLP. Anthony Robbins developed neuro-associative conditioning. Michael L. Hall developed neurosemantics, and many others have developed their own change models based upon the original NLP model. Now, if you have an interest in studying NLP, it's recommended you study some of the early books and training materials in order to gain an understanding of the spirit in which NLP was created. And I would suggest that you watch all of Bandler's videos from the 1980s. Some great videos from around 1987. And I should mention here that NLP has got a bad reputation in some circles because some of the trainers and practitioners have used the NLP models, language patterns and techniques to manipulate people, especially in the field of sales. So like any tool, it can be used for good or bad, and the best defense is to train yourself up to a high standard of excellence. Okay, so what is NLP? NLP, it's a behavioural and cognitive psychology that grew out of the human potential movement of the 1960s. Some of the key players were William James, Aldous Huxley, Carl Rogers, Viktor Frankl, Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir, Gregory Bateson, and Moshe Feldenkrais. Now, NLP was also developed at a time when hypnosis was not looked upon favourably by the mainstream psychology and medical professions. NLP then became a way to covertly employ hypnosis. In Western Australia, which is where I come from in the 80s, only registered psychologists could practice hypnosis. And since I had to drop out of my psych degree due to health issues, I moved to the Gold Coast where it was legal to practice hypnosis. So where do we get the words at Neuro-Linguistic Programming? Neuro comes from neurology, our senses, which are our abstractors, the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory senses. And these are the closest contact we have with the territory and abstract the information down. Linguistics refers to the way that language affects our perception of the world and creates behaviours. Programming refers to the notion that the neural network pathways are programmed to work in predictable ways. Now, NLP, it's a methodology of modelling. It's a process of recognising patterns of excellence and defining them in such a way that others can use them. Do you get that? So what we do is we find someone at the top of their profession. We model out the thought processes that they use, and then we get a method, a procedure, a technique for success that we can teach to others and use for ourselves. Now, NLP, it requires both an attitude of curiosity and a scientific but a playful approach to experiment beyond the traditional paradigms. So NLP is not so much interested in the why, but in the how to get results. And whereas traditional psychologists might ask a lot of why questions, which tends to reinforce the problem, with NLP we get a bit of information about the present situation, but then quickly move on to mapping out your future self, the best version of yourself, what we call a well-formed outcome. Now, NLP, it's a process of discovery that leaves behind it a trail of techniques. The techniques that are written up in the books and taught at workshops are not NLP. They are the results of applying the NLP methodology of modelling. And if you want to create the future of your dreams and manifest massive success, then you need to be able to make that distinction. NLP is the process and the techniques are the content. Okay, moving on. So how does NLP differ from psychology and psychiatry? Both psychiatry and psychology tend to focus on the content, hence psychiatrists and psychologists may spend considerable time having you talk about your past problems. Both psychiatry and psychology ask why the client has a problem. They analyse the client until they decide upon a diagnosis, which invariably means the client ends up wearing a label. Psychiatry and psychology are related to the medical model. So rather than focus on content, NLP works with the structure of the mind. NLP is solution-oriented. And it's interesting because now there's a psychological model which is solution-focused psychology or something like that. They'll never catch up. Anyway, NLP is process-oriented. NLP is not interested in why you have a problem. NLP is interested in how to get a result as quickly as possible. So what do you want? Do you want to know why you have a problem, why you're poor, or do you want to know how to make money or how to get success and health? Anyway, NLP, it's probably not considered to be scientific by the psychological profession. Who cares? NLP, it's practical, it's methodical, and most importantly, NLP consistently gets rapid results. If you know how to use it, that is. So what do you want? Do you want to know why you have a problem? Or do you want to make positive changes and build a fantastic future for yourself? So let's look at some of the applications of NLP. NLP can be used as a therapy to heal the past and to help people change bad habits. Most importantly, NLP can be used to create peak performance in the areas of business, sales, health, sport, education, learning, and spirituality. NLP can be used to influence most things in a person's life. The NLP models can be applied to an organization as well as an individual and can be applied to the study of any discipline such as science and religion. Now, There's a few principles you need to keep in mind. These higher frames of mind determine how the lower frames are applied and whether they will work or not. So let's look at some of the principles of NLP. NLP is the study of subjective experience. Subjective experience. The mind has a structure that can be mapped. It's very important. Mind and body are not separate. The mind and body is actually one system. And the meaning of your communication is the response that you get. So if you don't like the response you're getting from people, then keep changing your behavior until you get the desired response. Which means you have to have flexibility in how you think, how you talk, how you act. And that can be quite a challenge for some people, quite a challenge. Because it means sometimes you have to challenge everything for the truth, which, as you know, it's my motto. Challenge everything for the truth. So, next principle, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So if you embark on a project to, I don't know, make $1 million or something or other, and you don't succeed, well, you haven't failed. What you discovered is you discovered a way not to make money. So you take it as feedback, take a look at your plan and how you think, reformulate it. Next principle, people are not broken, they work perfectly. So you get psychologists and people talking about someone's broken, they've broken marriage or broken childhood, something happened. They're not broken, they're not a machine, If people get angry every day, they do it well, they're good at it. If people starve themselves, anorexia, it's because they're good at it. And we have to acknowledge that. Acknowledgement is a very important step. So if people are not broken, they work perfectly, we just need to find a solution. Same with making a success of yourself. That's what you have to find. Next principle, if your beliefs limit you, then rather than changing the world, change your beliefs. That's what I said before. You'll learn to challenge everything for the truth, which includes your own beliefs and attitudes and your knowledge, everything that you might hold dear. Everything has to be willing to be put aside so you actually learn what it is which will help you to achieve your desired outcome. Next principle, all behavior has a positive intention and the intention needs to be acknowledged. And behavior is the output of thoughts in the mind. So if a person actually smokes, you don't focus on the behavior. So many people, they focus on the behavior. No, you go back onto the thoughts in mind. What are the thoughts in mind that you hold that allow the smoking to happen? So then you just change those thoughts, so then the smoking no longer happens. So behavior is the output of thoughts in the mind. You want to make money or create wealth or health, then what are the thoughts that inhibit you and what are the thoughts that you need to facilitate and encourage so you achieve your outcomes? Next principle, we need to add choices, not take them away. So it's the person who has the most behavioural flexibility will control the system. We need to add choices, not take them away. So, for example, I use the example of smoking. So you don't take the choice of smoking away. What you do is you give the so-called smoker, you give them more choices. And they will always choose people will always choose the best option. And next principle, if someone else can do it, then there's a possibility that others can too. So one person can make $100,000 a month, then there's the possibility that you can too. And there needs to be sufficient degree of rapport, which rapport is trust or respect, sense of liking between, say, the NLP coach and the client for transformational change to occur. So let's say we were to work together, there has to be a sense of rapport between us, and it has to be like both ways. And once we have that sense of rapport, that sense of liking and trust, that then creates like a space for us to be able to work together. And the NLP coach acts as a facilitator to help the client access and mobilize their inner resources in order to achieve a well-formed outcome. So if I was to work with you, what I'm actually doing, I'm helping you to access and mobilize your inner resources to achieve your well-formed desired outcome. And the client is responsible for the changes that they make, which is very important. So that's my introduction to NLP. Hope this gets you motivated to learn more from my videos. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to map out your values so that you come to understand what motivates you to action. So make sure you look out for that video. I look forward to seeing you again. If you like the video, please give it a like, a thumbs up, and share it on social media. All the best to you, and I look forward to seeing you again.